Hi, it's Krzysztof Trojnar. I was a DOP on Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen, and this is the cinematography podcast. We had like millions of meetings about blood, but no one predicted that. I think it was like a first rehearsal they did, and the actors came in, and then you could only hear this like I don't even know what's the word that describes that sound, but it's like literally people getting glued to the
Yeah,
floor,
yeah.
point where they can't actually move. So a lot of that blood actually in the end ended up being VFX.
Hey, this is Cinepod, the cinematography podcast, a program about the art, craft, and philosophy of the moving image, presented by our proud sponsor, Hot Rod Cameras. I'm your host, Ben Rock. Today on our show, we speak with Krzysztof Trojnar, the acclaimed cinematographer of the Netflix series Baby Reindeer, a show which really got under my skin in a really good way. Today, we're going to be talking to him about his new series, Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen. It's a genuinely unsettling horror series about a woman whose anxiety about an upcoming family wedding spirals into something far darker. With Krzysztof's camera work enhancing the feeling of dread, holy crap does it ever, we dive into how the visual language of the show deliberately evolves across episodes, moving from Steadicam to gimbal to handheld to a very exciting body rig, mirroring the protagonist's psychological deterioration over time. Committing to a single lens for nearly the entire show, Krzysztof shot roughly 90% of this series on the 25mm, and he explains exactly why that choice creates presence without optical distortion. Fabricating a very, very exciting 360 body camera rig from scratch because nothing like it existed as a rental. The rig used a Steadicam vest fitted with an industrial bearing to orbit the camera around the actress in the show's harrowing final episode, and you've never seen a shot like this if you haven't seen this. After the interview, stick around for our short ends, our pet obsessions of the week. But first, find out what's going on in a world of entertainment in a patent-pending segment that we call Close Focus. All right, so Ilya, it is time for our close focus, and you had a really interesting idea, something that we don't talk about very often: cameras, but a twist on it, which is cameras that were used for films at Cannes this year, Cannes, which is I think still happening as we're recording right now.
It is still going on.
In fact, I think that there's an hour and a half long standing ovation happening right now for Airbud 7.
Clearly, Airbud 7 is sweeping all of
Mm.
the talk at Cannes this year.
Look, man, there ain't no rule that a dog can't play basketball. Anyway,
All right, so you want to talk about the cameras? That's what you called it, right?
the Caneras, yes, it's spelled Canneseras. Caneras, get it? It's a pun.
So I'm not going to go through of the 62 films I think that are in competition, and I'm not going to go through all of them. But there is a really good IndieWire article, so if anyone does want to see what all of the different cameras are, they can go to that article. And there's little conversations with many of the DPs as well. But in my quick perusal through the list, surprise, surprise, the Alexa 35 still seems to be the number one camera being used for movies at Cannes this year. A large number of them use the Alexa 35. No real surprises. It's widely considered, the best dynamic range and just pretty much the all-around best camera for most applications. That exists as far as cinema goes. So
Yeah.
there were a couple of entries there from Red Raptors, a couple of different Red cameras that were in there, a couple from Sony. Surprisingly, not just you would think Venice too, but I saw two films on there that were Buranos. So the
Hmm.
Burano was sort of a maligned camera, undeservedly so, I would say, in a lot of regards. And that has
Interesting. I never heard anyone malign it. Maligned how?
when it first came out, there was a lot of people complaining about the rolling shutter. The rolling shutter in particular was not what people were expecting, but it is an amazing camera, and I have quite a few clients who are doing really, really good work with it. Burano, super capable camera, and I'm glad to see it getting some love it can. Also, a couple of surprises. Film was big. In fact, 16 millimeter film. I think I counted at least three 16 millimeter films that were there. Plus, also the digital Bolex had a movie at Cannes. So digital 16 millimeter, and that camera hasn't been in production in probably 7, 8.
Yeah, when you told me that, it surprised me because like with a lot of these cameras comes ever upgrading firmware that you have to deal with. And I mean, I don't know because I've never used the digital Bolex. I believe that on our very first episode ever, our guest referred to the digital Bolex as a cry for help. And
Uh,
but it was kind of like a new thing back then, kind of like a hipster kind of a camera for digital filmmakers. And I think most of us outside of functionality aren't really that excited about the form factor of our cameras or the color or how cool it looks. Like what's cool is what does it do? But as I recall at the time, being kind of impressed with the digital Bolex tests that I'd seen and some tech specs and some other stuff.
it is a very particular look, and the look was designed to try to emulate as close as possible 16 millimeter film. I think it goes a pretty good way, but it's also incredibly light hungry. It's not very sensitive, so you do need to plan it appropriately. The camera really has, I think, like a native ISO of around 100. I have to say that it's interesting though too, because there was a film called The Beloved, which is currently there right now, and I have to give them credit because I think they get the prize for the most number of cameras and the most number of formats. They shot Super 8, Super 16, Super 35, 65 millimeters, Arri RAW 4.6 open gate, Arri RAW 3.4 open gate, Arri RAW 2K, raw red files 5.5K full frame, open gate Arri RAW. They have this huge list of stuff: full HD, Apple ProRes, and then all of the different Kodak stocks listed, including Eastman XX black and white negative film. And they use cameras including the Arri 416, the LT, the Arriflex 765. That is a rare camera. It's their 65 millimeter camera. The Alexa 35, Alexa Mini, Mini LF, the Sony Z1E, which is this little consumer style camera, the Red Weapon Dragon, Sony FX3, and a Boyu 4008. They also used
Is that Super 8?
It's Super 8, yeah.
I think I have that exact camera.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So they used anamorphic lenses from Hawk. They used high-speed T1 lenses. They used Arri Ultra Primes, Ultra 16 Primes, Sennheiser Super 16 lenses, and Arri 24-290, Fuji Cabrio 25-300, and the Sony FE consumer lens 24-70.
If they had used just one more camera, they would have gotten a free sub, but they didn't reach the number.
So to me, this actually sounds really interesting, and now I'm really curious to see it.
Well, it sounds like Oliver Stone, Natural Born Killers kind of a thing, or JFK, where it's just a pastiche of different formats, and they're constantly throwing new stuff at you. Danny Boyle does that. Honestly, Anthony Dodd Mantle, it is something that he's known to do from time to time. I don't know. This might be breaking all of their Robert Richardson's and Anthony Dodd Mantle's records for all of that. And I do wonder, like, if you already have the Red Weapon, why do you need a different flavor of red? But I don't know.
So according to the look here, it says the choice of cinematic tools responds to what has been described: random and unconscious creation of narratives, the constant transformation over time, and the search for clarity through multiple perspectives. So yeah, it's sometimes it's sharper, sometimes it's more colorful, sometimes desaturated, with a formal or distorted geometric structure, ethereal or earthly, and so on.
I think they had one of those things that the lottery has that just shoots the balls around, and they would just pull a ball out at the beginning of every day, and it'd be like, "Oh, we're shooting Super 8 today. All right, get the blimp."
That would be awesome. I'm sure that's not the case, but now I'm really curious to see it. Actually, reading that has made me now really want to see it. I don't know how many other people out there are like me, but I saw that and I was like, yeah.
I'll be interested to see, because I think that mixing up styles and formats and stuff like that can be very exciting, and if it's done in an interesting and creative way, then so this movie's called The Beloved.
The Beloved, yeah, and it's a can right now.
All right, well, it's definitely something I'll check out just based on this intense mixture of formats and stuff.
Yeah, me too. We were also talking just before we started that there's a new California post-production incentive specifically for post-production, which would give producers 35 to 50% of their post-production budget back if they spend $1 million. And I think a percentage less than that as well. It is being championed by California Assemblyman Nick Schultz, who's actually my assemblyman here in Burbank. And he says that he feels very confident about getting this to go forward. And if it, for whatever reason, does not happen this year, he says he will introduce it every year until it passes. So you do not have to have made a production inside of California to take advantage of the post-production credit. They are fighting hard the way that some other countries and places are doing to try to get some of those post-production jobs saved. Even if a job went elsewhere, they want to try and get local talent working on the projects, which I think is an admirable quest. I hope that it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like, I'm obviously biased because I live in Southern California and I do a lot of editing, but I feel like we have some of the most talented people in post-production, and that's editing, color correction, sound design, sound mixing, et cetera, and also some of the best sound post houses. And I mean, you don't really need, there was a time where you would need a post house to where you would go for your Avid, and I think that those days have long passed, and now you can run Avid on a laptop. You can edit in your office. You can have your editor there. That being said, there's just so many outrageously talented post-production professionals here who've spent a lifetime doing it, and a lot of them have had I hate to say it, a pivot moment where they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go work in a different industry. The thing is that there's a community of people here who are excellent at post-production, and a lot of them, I've been aware of this proposal for a while because, all my friends in post-production are like, I have to feed my kid. Like I have to support myself doing, what exactly, and so we're not just, battling against the encroaching AI takeover of all post-production, which I think is further away than most people think, but also we
far, very, very far.
But I mean, there are mechanical processes, like there's a plugin you can get if you do a podcast like ours that will just like cut out all the ums and the uhs and the pauses between us talking, although there are no pauses between us. We're professionals. Yeah, we just talk over each other.
That's exactly right. Always.
Always. But there are ones that can like do a very quick assembly and take kind of the grunt work out of it. Cool, fine, whatever. But like when it comes to creative edits, that stuff's not, you're not going to want to trust a robot to that. And even if you do, you're going to want a human being to go through it. But it's bad enough that we have to compete with that. But then we have to compete with countries where making $5 an hour is an okay wage, and you don't need to be in the same room with somebody. And some post-production, like assistant editing, you don't necessarily have to have that one-to-one face-to-face client you don't have to have that connection necessarily. So doing something like this is kind of necessary. I think tax incentives are the way to go to keep the production here and post-production.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. So Ben, why don't we get to the interview now with Krzysztof Trojnar?
All right, let's do it. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and congratulations on the show. It's really beautiful, haunting, creepy ass work, and it was giving me a many feels while I was watching it, and reminding me in really positive ways of. There were just so many techniques that I felt like I was seeing a unique spin on, from sort of the POV ness that I think you called it the very bad POV, sort of reminded me a little bit of like in the Evil Dead movies, the way the Sam Raimi's character kind of follows people in. There were a lot of body rigs that kind of felt reminiscent of Darren Aronofsky, but also it all felt like a piece of itself. There was also like definitely a David Lynchian vibe, that kind of carried through. And I'm talking about, the very creepiest kind of David Lynch, Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart kind of stuff. So those were my impressions, but like, tell me what was the starting point for you and your team, and the, directors and all that, in terms of like, what were you trying to make the show look like? I keep wanting to call it a film. In my mind, it feels like this like super dark Kubrick-esque movie that I saw. What were the inspirations? What was the jumping off point?
I think like from the start. So like I've worked with the director before. We did Baby Reindeer together, and so I guess we already had a little bit. We have a little bit of a shorthand, or we know each other. Actually, we went to film school together a long time ago.
Oh, what school did you go to?
We went to film school in Poland, in
Mhm.
Katowice, and then we went to NFTS, the National Film School in UK. So kind of went through two, actually. Long story short, but so yeah, I guess they when Veronica told me about it, she said like there's this script. It's a horror, but it's a kind of there's something special about it, and just read it and see how you feel about it. And then I thought we just at least for me, when I read it, I was like, I don't want to do a sort of fantastical horror that has all the kind of effects of horror. And for me it felt like I want to do a family drama, and it's a drama. It's a portrait of this woman that is going to a wedding and has a lot of anxiety around it. And I kind of wanted to treat it from like a sort of a genuine place where you follow her, and in some way there is an element of naturalism that will make you believe that the story is happening actually as a drama rather than a horror. And then whatever scary comes in the process of it, then that horror affects the audience, but it's not like a immediate, you see a frame and you think you're watching a horror movie. I guess that was my sort of main goal with going into this project, to kind of to watch this first as a drama, and kind of be attached to this character, because obviously she's like everything revolves around her, and it's her story. So that was my like primary goal, to kind of get the audience in front of her, and kind of get the audience to follow her, and then kind of discover the horror with her in a way.
Were there any like visual rules or guidelines y'all created, like about like how she is presented in the frame? Or I always think about like movies like Pi, Darren Aronofsky's Pi, where it's like that main character is in every frame but other people aren't. Like, were there specific rules that you had about her and her presentation in the frame?
Yeah, no, very much so. Like in the prep, we kind of created like a guidebook for ourselves of like how we're gonna portray her, and what will be the almost like the shot types that will tell the story.
Mm.
And like the kind of idea was that um I mean, it kind of felt like that you want to kind of, as episodes go, you want to kind of progress with the immersion into her story, into her character. And so the rules were like, at the beginning we used to always have something which is called the Rachel shot.
Mm.
And that was the shot where she never leaves the shot. It's mostly a developing shot. The way we shot it, it was like always, although it doesn't appear this way, maybe in the first few episodes, but like we always shot the shot that was a continuous shot that would take the whole scene. It would often develop on Steadicam, and we would never interrupt it. And then kind of the other characters come into this shot, but it's always like a very it's a shot that kind of is definitely subjective to Rachel, and it's following her, and that's kind of like the main thread. uh then so that was the idea. Like at the beginning, we're just portraying it on Steadicam, and then as the show progresses, then the next step is a Ronin or some kind of gimbal where you kind of the kind of the fluidity of it all kind of breaks a little bit, and then at the end, as you see in episode 8, it's handheld, and sometimes even a body rig.
I love the body rigs.
And it's interesting the moment when it actually happens. So the wedding itself is we shot twice. We shot it once just doing a lock of frames for the coverage of the whole wedding, and we did the handheld takes on each person. So then we wanted to have that moment where suddenly when Nikki, the her fiance, says that he's not. I don't know if I can do spoilers, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. I mean, you go ahead.
When he's not sure, then the camera suddenly goes handheld, and then off that point we're starting to follow Rachel handheld for the rest of the story.
So you did the whole scene on sticks and handheld so that you could choose that, or did you shoot it that way so that you kind of only gave yourself the one choice?
Well, like we did like this sort of a double coverage for that,
Mm-hmm.
because I guess we didn't neither want to break the performances, nor we wanted to find that moment where suddenly this energy in Rachel's point of view becomes like, oh, wait a minute, so this is actually not happening, this is going somewhere. We did not expect that. So that was the moment where we definitely knew that we're gonna start following her handheld from that point, but exactly where in the scene. So that's why we shot it sort of twice. Yeah.
Was that the scene where the floor was covered with blood? I'd heard a
No,
production.
no, that's the scene when they actually getting married.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. The wedding scene. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The blood covered floor. That's that.
That was actually a very interesting surprise for everybody when they covered the blood, the floor with blood, and then we had like millions of meeting about blood,
Yeah.
and uh, and then suddenly, and then we spoke with special effects and everybody.
Well, it's a big deal because like all the actors, all the crew, everybody has to walk through this.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but no one predicted that. I think it was like a first rehearsal they did, and the actors came in, and then you could only hear this, like, I don't even know what's the word that describes that sound, but it's like literally people getting glued to the floor,
Yeah.
point where they can't actually move. So a lot of that blood actually in the end ended up being VFX,
Oh no.
especially like especially around where they're standing,
Yeah.
there's like patches of VFX just to kind of allow them to walk, because it was just impossible to, they were just literally getting glued to the floor.
Oh, that's. I, I mean, I think it's like, everyone has a story like this where it's like we had 500 meetings about this and we were all clear on what we were doing. And then we got there and it was not what anyone had expected. Like somebody should have said, yeah, we can do it, but you can't stand on it or it's going to glue you to the floor, you know?
I'm kind of surprised no one said, especially like SFX. Like I
Yeah.
was like, did someone surely's done it in the past, but then yeah, it kind of catches you by surprise. I guess one doesn't show always, often like a room filled with blood, so you don't know until
It's
you.
not, yeah, it's a little out of the usual, but it's certainly been done once or twice, but,
Yeah, yeah, you would think so.
yeah. um, so I want to talk about the choreography of your scenes because one of the things that I just kept thinking while watching the show was that our point of view as your work was kind of a character and to a certain degree the cinematography is always a character, but if you're doing you know you know I hate to say basic coverage because that diminishes people who do it really well and it's very useful a lot of times, but like there's such an intentionality behind every angle in the whole show and it really shines through. Um, you know, And so like looking at a lot of the scenes, especially scenes with multiple people where you're doing longer takes too, where there's just a lot of people, it's almost like a one act play happening and the camera is a character that doesn't talk in the scene. How did you work those out? Did you operate at all, or were you working with operators, or like how did you figure out all of that choreography?
No, I didn't operate the camera.
Mm.
It was a wonderful camera operator called Mike Heathcote was my ACAM operator. I guess if we discussed it a lot, during prep, and I think pretty much most of the scenes we kind of photographed before they actually happened. We had that luxury that we were on the stage, and literally we could go from one office out to the set. And
Like you were rehearsing with actors, or you were planning out the shots?
initially it was just me and the director and the first AD, and then actually for a few instances we actually got actors to come to a rehearsal to see how it's gonna work out in movement. Like, in the episode when Rachel looks for her dress and walks around the entire house
Oh yeah.
trying to find it. And it was all shot as a one take. I think it was like 11 minutes of just, or 10 minutes of just moving around the entire set, that we got Camila to come in and try with us, and figure out, where we're gonna be at what time, and how we're gonna cover it. Yes.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of, the kind of the group shots and the group scenes, I mean, like the dress fitting scene, we always knew we wanted to do it, like make it feel like, the camera is the person. It's such a strong scene where she's
Yeah.
so overwhelmed with all this sort of family intrusion into her world, like that. We always wanted to almost make it feel like they're all kind of uh getting on top of one another, just to kind of influence Rachel's choices, or make her, like, yeah, essentially really push their sort of agenda on
Hmm.
her. And yeah, that was just, we just used the viewfinder, and we always, we found those angles ourselves, and we got a camera, we got a mannequin, so we could have put a wedding dress on top of a mannequin without the head, and then have a camera where her head face would be, and kind of shoot it from Litchi point of view. And yeah, so it was just a process of talking, and figuring out how to make it the most subjective. I guess
Hmm.
that was our aim.
Were there specific influences, other films, photographs, paintings, or whatever that you guys took for kind of the overall design of that, the composition? And I feel like like we were on a wider lens, but what were the ultimate conclusions of that kind of stuff?
I actually think the majority of the show is shot on 25 mil. I would
Yeah.
say I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 90% of shots is 25 mil, to the
Yeah.
point where, like, the
So
camera operator or the first AC would, like, would laugh each time we would, after blocking, they were like, so what lens is gonna be? It'll be 25, 25, 25, until the very end of episode. The last episode is 21 and 18,
mhm.
uh, because we just wanted to make it look a bit more, a bit more immediate, bit more hectic, and bit sort of exaggerated. Because obviously of whatever happens, and as you watched it, it's quite wild
Yeah.
what's happening. Um, so yeah, so I guess the sort of thinking behind it was that with I feel like with that lens, you really get the presence of a character in front of camera. Like you
Yeah.
really breathe, you feel them breathing, and you are close to them without, I guess, at the beginning, especially kind of exaggerating that presence. I think it's just a very organic, no, I should not use that word, uh, but it's just a very um like I think you're just present with the character as a.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Barry Sonnenfeld or Roger Deakins kind of do land on wider lenses and kind of like seat the people in their environment a lot.
100%. And I really believe that you do feel that presence. And then I think that combined with the choice of eyeline also gives you that kind of feeling of being there with the character. Um
I'm sorry I loaded that question with two completely separate questions, but one of them was just sort of like what were the influences? Because again, like I'm watching it and I'm thinking David Lynch, I'm thinking Rosemary's Baby, I'm thinking Sam Raimi, but I'm just curious what was in there for you guys.
Definitely it was it like obviously the world of Rosemary's Baby and also kind of the way they done that film. I think that was pretty much the 27 or something, or the 25 from what I heard. Like it's around that. And definitely the David Lynch was an influence. The kind of feeling of Lost Highway, a little bit,
Yeah,
kind of the weirdness of it,
I love that movie.
and bit of Jonathan Demme as
Mhm.
well. Like I think we kind of we were very influenced by that thing where you get the characters looking straight down the lens. I think they're just kind of choosing that moment
It's
when
the
it
best.
happens.
I love how he does that, and I'm surprised more people don't do it. It's such an effective technique.
Oh, it's incredible. We used to call it a JD shot. So that was always like, oh, is that a JD? Yes, that's a JD.
Nice.
When she sees the mom for the first time in episode one, when she goes in and the mom is kind of she's sleepwalking, and we kind of want to see her for the first time. She's looking down the lens, and then you get the reverse where Victoria, the mom, is looking down the lens, or just off the lens into a mark rather than rather than at the actor, which is something that some actors don't really like.
Looking right into the lens.
Yeah, they're like playing to the lens rather than the actor. But I guess we've been they were generous with us. But yeah, I noticed that sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, I guess, because you're just playing to the lens rather than a human being. Despite that the human being is just there, but they have
Yeah.
to kind of.
I've always wondered for those shots. There's that rig called an eye direct that people use for interviews where I've always wondered if you could use that in a narrative sense and just kind of have the actor reflected in it, so at least you're looking in their eye. But of course, if it's handheld or Steadicam, that would be impossible because those things are humongous.
100%. And I think actually, weirdly, we were talking about it in prep, but Veronica was like, "Oh, can we actually do it? That they can see each other? Is there a way to do it?" And there is. It's just so technically complicated in a way.
Yeah.
But and then I was like, but obviously when we're doing a Steadicam, that is probably gonna.
Yeah, yeah. It's just gonna make your thing front heavy and weird looking, and harder for the operator.
But actually, funny enough, I can't remember the film, but I saw they've done it where they put a 50-50 mirror
Yeah,
between a camera and an actor, and then reflected the other actor,
yeah,
had the actor in the reflection. And that way they kind of still looking at each other. I guess it's possible.
yeah.
It's just quite technical, I guess.
It's a lot of work because your actor can't like look 5 degrees away from their scene partner and pretend that it's their eye line. But you know, if an actor ever like pushed back on that, I'd be like, Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster seemed okay with it.
They nailed it.
Yeah.
So yeah. And
Um.
obviously, having speaking of that film, having Buffalo Bill in the movie in our show was quite fun as well.
I would geek out literally every second. And I love that guy. I think Ted Levine. I think he's just a phenomenal actor. But also, yeah, I mean, like I don't know. I could speak in a language entirely made up of Silence of the Lambs quotes. I've seen that movie so many times. So I just love that movie to death. Well, let's talk about like there's something about the architecture of the set design, specifically of like the main house where we spend a lot of time. And we've had a few people on here, cinematographers, who started as architects and moved into cinematography after, you know, and they're like, it's the same job. You know, you're creating space, you're lighting and crafting space. And I feel like architecture is also kind of another character in this. And I know it's more of a set design thing, but I'm just kind of curious about how you, as a cinematographer, responded to the set design. I assume it was a set. I don't. Maybe it was a real location. I don't know. But like how you responded to the set design when you were brought into it, and how the set design affected your approach to shooting it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I have a feeling like, you know, the set kind of is co-creating the look of the show, of the
Yeah.
film, right? So when you're all these choices have a huge impact on your final look or on the look you're trying to design. And I think in this case it was like kind of from the very start you know, like we knew we're not going to go into your typical kind of scary mansion, you know, scary house that is, you know, because like the script said, it's a, you know, it's an affluent family with the house that kind of says money. And, you know, there's so many versions of what this house could look like.
Yeah, I know. Could have been all glass and steel. Could have been, you know.
It could be glass and steel and slick or you know, but I guess from the very start, and I think Veronica, you know, she was saying like we don't want to make it like you know, your average cliche fancy house. Like we really want to hone in onto like and actually one of the inspirations was this film, Ang Lee's film The Ice Storm, which is like obviously, you know, the kind of the modernist architecture, and
Yeah, beautiful film.
to portray this family, you know, in this kind of less stereotypical modern you know, contemporary house, where we wanted to find something with a character. From the start it was like, you know, it's going to be you know, mid-century home. Now it turns out that in Ontario, Toronto, there's not much mid-century
No?
architecture. So yeah, it quickly became evident that we have to build it, which was, to be honest, like we kind of hoped that that will always be the case, but initially there was a practical argument that maybe we should find it, but that quickly became evident that that's impossible. So we were very glad that we could build it. So in that way, we could think of the layout and how that will work for the story, and you know, you can make all those choices that will help you know, the architecture choices that will help the look, the feeling, the story. So that was very useful. And I guess going back to your question, it's yeah, I mean, that's kind of amazing that you know, you can actually create the look without manipulating the color in a way, because you can make all those choices as you go, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so I think that's why the design is so important, and that's why like the collaboration is so important. Like in this case, for example, you know, it's often, as it goes with um mid-century architecture, is like you get often a room, like you get often the room with a ceiling that you can actually see. So then obviously where do you put your light, because we're looking at the whole room,
Yeah.
and we know that we're definitely not going to use the practicals to illuminate the set, because I don't know, I also kind of like to work with light sources, and it's in this case it was evident that it's just not going to be just available light for obvious reasons.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would say it's such an important element, and it's so it affects my thinking about the shots, and and I kind of want to know where we're going with it, and I don't want to say, well, in ideal world, I would like to know if I'm getting on the project. I would like to know what are the thoughts around the design of it, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I know it will really affect things, and kind of want to fall in love with the sets, so then they will then I will find my way to kind of to respond to what I'm seeing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, and you can feel that space throughout. When you're in there, and again, you're in there so much that I feel like it's, probably one of the biggest choices that you would make on a show like this is the design of that set.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess we had good experience kind of collaborating on how, because you can then talk about, every dimensions to a point where it kind of gets, overwhelming, because actually everything becomes a choice,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is interesting, as opposed to finding places and you seeing them and you go, okay, well, I'll figure it out. This time you just have to say, like, this is how high the ceiling is gonna be. Not that you're dictating it as a DOP, but you're definitely collaborating.
Yeah, but as a team, you're all saying like, okay, we want to get these kinds of shots, so the ceiling has to be X high, and we need to be able to put a grid over here, whatever it is that you're going to do, lighting wise or whatever.
Yeah.
So so I feel like there were just so many camera styles that I saw throughout the show. And so there's the I brought it up a little bit earlier, but the very very bad POV, which was that also on the 25.
Well, that was like an unusual thing where, so we looked at, like, I when we were talking about it, like how we're gonna make it feel like it's, because initially you kind of meant to think that this is maybe a person,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but then you realize it's actually death, and it's becoming like this otherworldly point of view. That that there'll be like an element of distortion to it, and we were like looking at what kind of distortion we can achieve, and at the beginning I couldn't find the right lens, couldn't find the any adapter that could work. If you would ask technical terms, I wouldn't be able to explain what it is, but it's an front element that moves in front of the lens, and it has that almost like a little I don't even know how to say it. It has like this yeah, moving frontal element that you can rig into a lens, and then kind of creates that distortion, and kind of makes it also change the close focus uh during the shot remotely. So yeah, that was the
And that's the deaconizer, right?
yeah, we called it deaconizer, but it wasn't the original. The original deaconizer was used in Killing of the Jesse James.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that was deaconizer because it was made for Roger Deakins. And that was some kind of front optical element that was attached to a lens. But we couldn't source that.
Yeah, it created like an out of focus vignette around the edges of the frame and kind of smeared and stretched the edges a little bit.
Exactly, and it kind of felt like, well, we were actually using 25, but it felt much wider, and then we had to crop a little bit the edges of the image. But it kind of, yeah, it was a 25, but it kind of gave you a little bit of a wider sense of space. It was kind of compressing space in
Yeah, was it like magnifying the edges somehow or something?
Mhm.
What was going so you said you had to crop it. What was going on the edges that you didn't want to have in there?
It just it didn't cover the full open gate frame that we used
Oh.
of Super 35, so we had to like punch in a little bit. But yeah, it was kind of smearing the edges and kind of extending the edges of the frame. That's why you get this kind of almost like like Kawa anamorphics give you that kind of stretchy feel when you pan the
Yeah.
camera. That was kind of doing it the same thing. So yeah, I was glad when we found it because it was kind of there was something unusual about it.
Yeah, that was the shot that kind of reminded me of the Evil Dead 2 POV of the thing. Shot by Peter Deming, by the way, in his second film ever. I'm a massive fan of his work.
It's such a I was rewatching the Evil Dead and the showrunner Haley, she's a huge horror fan and she loves that film and
How can you not? It's like just freaking perfect.
it's a classic. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so amazing.
I mean, I will say though that there was kind of like a Lost Highway ish vibe in some of the darker scenes, the way that you filmed them, where it didn't feel like movie darkness. It felt like what darkness feels like when you're in it.
Yeah, I mean that definitely was. It's interesting because I think Haley wanted, like, she was really on board with making it dark, and I think the first week of shooting was, I think the first note that came was like, "Oh, it's too dark," and but we were like, "No, no, you can actually, it's just on the edge," and and I think I had to get the colorists to see to I think the producers went to because basically the issue was it was the pics, the when you watch rushes,
Oh yeah. Oh, it's compressing it.
the compression is so bad that obviously for everyone to conveniently watch it, everyone uses that uses that kind of software, but what it does with dark images, like, you start to lose detail as soon as it gets very dark. So yeah, they had to like go and watch the original stream to see where it can land versus to what you can see in what they could see in the dailies, just to kind of just to feel them safe and make them feel safe, and that it's all there. But then we got actually to grading, and Haley was like, just make sure you get it dark.
Well, I guess the question too is like if you're making something explicitly for Netflix, so it's going to be on people's televisions, and you have no control how people, like if you're making something for a theatrical release, you can control the DCP, and movie theaters have brighter or dimmer lamp sources, but like TVs are all over the place. And so do you ever have to think on that level of like, I need to protect this so that the person who has their contrast jacked up too high will still be able to see the show? Or is it like, fix your contrast, idiots at home? Anyway.
I mean, no, we did think it's like, okay, well, people are gonna watch, like, after all, it's a horror, and I think you don't but want to be watching it on the beach, on your little tiny iPhone, and kind of, because you're not gonna have the experience of watching a horror. And then
Yeah.
in a way, I know it's kind of sounds maybe a little bit cheeky, but like kind of we were hoping that maybe it will encourage people to view it in the right viewing environment, but also like, yeah, we were with the colors, we were like, we're definitely, we definitely are on the dark side, but we tried a few TVs and made sure that it's definitely, it's not going to go completely dark. And yeah, I know online there were some complaints, but hopefully not as many as on
Game of Thrones.
yes.
I mean, that was ridiculous. That Game of Thrones episode. Like, I love Game of Thrones, but it was like, can I see any of this? Like, I've set my TV up pretty well. Well, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about were the body rigs, because there's a lot of like very creative body rig work. And, I'm just curious, like, what goes into figuring out, planning, executing those shots? If you were going to like, if you were telling someone who'd never done a body rig, like, how much extra time should they use? Like, where do you even start in thinking about how to do interesting creative body rigs like you guys did?
Yeah, it's I guess the idea from the start was to make that last episode almost as nightmarish and kind of be with the character, you know, almost a feeling sometimes like you're in a video game and it's like it's really there and you're really with the character. And we were talking about it, like we really want to make it feel at the end to kind of give that extra layer of intensity. And I guess there was a moment it's like, okay, well, we've seen body rigs, but what if? And at that time, we I actually didn't realized that it was the mechanics of set that will actually require this as well. Initially, I saw somewhere this amazing shot where you're on the body rig, but the camera can still move around the subject.
Yeah.
And there's this, I think it's German or Austrian film called Angst. And that to this day, I'm so impressed by how they did, because that was a 35 mil camera where, the
Yeah.
whole film is done on the body rig. Uh,
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up.
that was the inspiration. It's a film from the either end of 80s or 90s. And so yeah, and that was for this particular moment where just to make it special when Rachel is about to, just before she dies, she basically escapes the sort of attempted wedding, just to stop the curse, and then she goes into the atrium and she has to go through the door, which was never a part of the conversation, but we were like, oh, she's walking with a body rig, so then the body rig has to move in
Yeah.
order for her to open the door, and it suddenly becomes follows her, and then but that was a practical thing that came later, but we always wanted to have that kind of 360 situation, where she's like seeing the whole horror around herself.
What is that rig? What is that rig called? I don't know. I've probably seen it used in stuff and didn't even realize it. But it's just such a cool rig.
It was custom. We
Oh,
we
okay.
made
Okay.
it custom. So I met with the camera operator and I said, I want to make this 360 rig. I watched that, like, we knew the film from the 90s, but it's not something that you can just, call a rental house and say, hey guys, just give me your 360 rig.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a total coincidence that in Toronto, there's a workshop by this company called Walter Klassen, which I knew the name because they do Steadicam vests, but they also do SFX. And Mike, who's from Toronto, said, well, if you want to do this 360 rig, we should definitely talk to them, because their sort of background of work, it used to be building harnesses for puppeteering, actors in
Oh.
stage or theater. So we were like, well, hopefully they'll build us a harness, and then somehow we'll be able to move the camera around it. So we went to see guys there, and they were like, okay, so we'll take a part of the Steadicam harness, we'll wrap it around the actor, and then we're gonna put a big bearing around it, and then we'll rig the camera so it can actually.
What?
Yeah,
So she's got up.
that's amazing.
So she's wearing a Steadicam vest with a giant bearing on it and a camera on it.
Yeah.
She have to like do extra squats to get strong enough to do that. Like,
And then we supported it. Like, in ideal world, you almost want to have a very tiny camera that can just literally spin around.
yeah.
But we kind of supported it a little bit. But
Which camera did you use on that?
that was Alexa 35. That was
Oh, wow.
our ACAM or CCAM body that we used.
Wow. So not a huge camera, but not a small camera.
Yes, exactly. About 3.5 kilos, and then obviously because you have to offset it, it weighs a bit. But yeah, so it's just a part of Steadicam vest, just like a belt,
Uh-huh.
with clips, and then big bearing, and yeah, it was amazing. I think I really liked, because he had this kind of feeling of being a body rig, but also kind of shaky, like a almost like a handheld camera. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just
No, it's I've never quite seen a shot exactly like that, and now I understand why because you guys build a custom rig just for that shot. But it's like we're used to I keep going back to Darren Aronofsky, but like that the body cam where it's like the camera's kind of locked onto the face or whatever, and like just moves with their torso. But you had kind of I didn't know how I could tell it was a body rig of some kind, but I had no idea how you had done it.
yeah, no, and that was great,
It's like a magic trick. I love it.
and in a way, I'm sad because we did the whole journey, and I think they cut it a little bit at the end. So there was like this show was much longer,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, it's cool. I think it's quite effective, for that moment when it's she's kind of experiencing her own death.
No, I mean it's a brilliant like moment where like art, technology, and engineering all come together. It's a whole STEM program in one shot, and it's a beautiful shot. I mean, like that's to me that's the test of it too. Is it's like it's thematic, but it's gorgeous, and again, I didn't know. I assumed that like someone had, some specialist made a bunch of body rigs that did different things. I didn't realize you had to build one from scratch every time you wanted to do something like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, that felt like, you're in a sort of a toy shop where you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I want this," and they'll just make it for
Did
you.
did you keep the rig? Does anyone still have the rig?
They have the rig, yeah, in Toronto. And they yeah, Mike said, "Oh, I spoke with them and they said, they can do a little development in the prototype or we can test it." I was like, "Great."
Get your name on that, man.
No,
That's
in
awesome.
fairness, it's someone's done it before. It's again innovation from the 80s or 90s. The way they must have dealt with it because it was a 35 mil camera. I saw they had used to have a stick with a wheel so they could support the weight of the camera, something like that.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but we kind of did it handheld and we kind of liked the effect.
I'm gonna look up angst because I that sounds really cool. But yeah, I mean,
It's
yeah.
very cool.
That's sweet. Well, I feel like that is about enough. I've used up about enough of your time. But before we go, firstly, I just want to encourage everyone to definitely check out your show. Something very bad is going to happen, which is still on Netflix. Or still on Netflix. Everything's on Netflix forever once it's on Netflix, isn't it? But besides that, is there any place where people can find you online, check out more of your work, Instagram, TikTok? What do you do?
Yeah, they can definitely see more of my work on Instagram and on my website. Yeah, it's just my name, Krzysztof Trojnar, and yeah, you can definitely check out more stuff.
Well, Krzysztof, thank you so much for coming on the show, and congratulations. It's an amazing looking piece of work. You should be really proud of what you did.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you for having me.
All right, so that was Krzysztof Trojnar. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Krzysztof. Real pleasure. Everybody, check out Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen on Netflix. Currently, you can watch the whole show. It's freaking awesome. I really love it, and I loved hearing how they achieved what a unique palette of looks that they created for this show. So cool.
Yeah, my understanding is the creator of that show, the writer and director, is from Portland. So there you go.
Oh, cool. They'll take people from anywhere. Anyway, sure, it's not Portland, Maine. All right, so Ilya, it is our patent pending segment of Short Ends, our pet obsessions of the week. What is your big obsession this week?
Like a few weeks ago, it's another book. Can you believe it?
What podcast are we doing? Are we doing the Book Nook? Is this book talk? What are we doing here?
It turns out I've been enjoying something I didn't know existed, but it's a category of books called a lit RPG. a literary role-playing game. Now, it's not actually a game, and I'd never heard this term before, but I understand exactly now, having read the book, why they're calling it that. Because essentially, the characters in the book find themselves in some sort of like life and death, real life role-playing game.
Mhm.
Essentially, the concept is this: the book is called Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it's a book series by a guy named Matt Dinneman, and it's a man named Carl and his cat Princess Donut, who are forced to participate in a deadly intergalactic reality style TV show
Hmm.
where they crawl a dungeon after an alien apocalypse destroys all of Earth's buildings and most of the population. And it's extremely dark humor. It's kind of a combination of sci-fi and fantasy blended together. And there is a particular level of snark and a really incredible audio version of this book on Audible. Like the people who produce this, it feels more like I'm listening to well a well done audio drama than just listening to a book. So highly recommend Dungeon Crawler Carl, and also in particular the audible version of it, so you can hear, because they have different actors who do different characters. They have a little bit of sound effects, but it's a really easy listen. It's a fast listen, and if you like dark humor as I tend to, and a little bit of snark, this is for you.
Cool. And so you're recommending specifically the audio version of it.
I'm specifically recommending the audio version. So yes, I think the book is great, but I would say listening to this book, you'll get an extra level of enjoyment that you wouldn't have gotten just from reading it.
So why are they calling it an RPG if it's a book? Is there any choose your own adventure-ness to it?
No, this I didn't even know that this was a genre, but I've heard now this being described as that. So it to me it seems like there's a series of books that spawn like fan role-playing game versions of it or other things that come out of it, and it really does, like, if you ever played Dungeons and Dragons as a kid or an adult, or ever
Both.
played a video game that had sort of like a role-playing aspect to it, you'll understand sort of the concepts. They go into like stat points and experience and things like this, and so all of that will become will be second nature for you. But at the same time, it's accessible that anybody can read this. You do not have to be an RPG nerd to enjoy it. Anyone can enjoy this, and it's a lot of fun.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'll definitely try and check that out. I do have an Audible subscription. My short end, my pet obsession is I feel a little lazy because it's a movie that's in theaters right now. But as we barrel face first into summer blockbuster season, there's a little horror movie that came out last week that is playing in a theater near you right now. And as you hear the sound of my voice, if you go catch it, I think it's excellent. Now it's if you watch the trailer makes it feel more like a thriller, like a stalkery thriller. But no, I assure you, this is a horror film. This is a straight up horror film. It's called Obsession. It's directed by Curry Barker. It's shot by somebody named Taylor Clemens, who does a really good job of shooting just a kind of a dark, atmospheric. I'm going to say very monkey's paw kind of a movie. So it's basically about a young guy who carries a torch for a young girl, and then he comes across like what appears to be almost a novelty product at a new age store called a wish willow. He wishes that she would love him, breaks the wish willow, and then she falls completely in love with him to the exclusion of all else in her life, and it becomes kind of insane. Like her behavior becomes kind of very insane because basically he's taking away all of her agency, and it's really creepy as hell, and it looks great. The actors are all great. Curry Barker is yet another, I believe he's yet another YouTuber who's making the move to making making movies, following movies like Talk to Me or Iron Lung. But I feel like this is what the farm leagues of YouTube kind of prepare you for, is like, you're going to do everything. You're going to make a lot of content. There's that word. And you're going to put it out on a regular basis, and you're going to do 80% of the jobs because you can't have a staff editor. Even with the proposed California post-production tax credit, you probably wouldn't have an editor on your YouTube channel. My hat's off to Curry Barker. I don't know what the budget was. I don't suspect it was super high. But it looks great. It's got great pacing. It's nice and creepy. And before we get swept away in the Mandalorian and Grogu and Supergirl and all the other stuff that they're about to sandblast at our face for the next 3 months, go check out a small. I would say make a double feature of Hokum and Obsession. That would be a good double feature. Nice and creepy. And in the case of Obsession, maybe even a little bit gross, but definitely dug it.
Nice. That sounds awesome. I'm totally interested in that, and I really do want to go see Hokum. I haven't seen that either.
You're gonna like Hokum a lot, I think. I think Hokum is definitely like less of a spicy meatball than Obsession. Obsession goes pretty hard when it goes, and Hokum is more about mood and atmosphere and kind of ghosty, creepy stuff. It's very good. They're both very good. I'd say go run, don't walk. See them before they're going to be gone in a minute, because we're about to undergo an avalanche of giant summer blockbuster movies.
Phew, that's true. I'm kind of looking forward to some of those blockbusters this year. So we'll see.
Okay, I know this is unscientific, but I'm someone who's been going to the theater pretty regularly since kind of the end of the pandemic, and movie theaters have been kind of the one that I go to specifically, the one at the Sherman Oaks Galleria in the Valley here, has been kind of a ghost town. And the last several times I've been there, it's been hard to get a parking spot. It's been packed. I think people are rediscovering that movies in the theater are cool, which makes me very happy.
Yeah, spoiler, in a future episode, I'll talk about an experience at a premium movie supper dinner thing. But yeah, I won't go into it now. I will tell you that it was sold out though. It was full of people. So yeah, there's definitely seems to be something on the rise.
Yeah. I think there are more movies, and I think that the studios and stuff have figured out what people want to see in movie theaters a little better. And I think the theaters have been working really hard to make the theater going experience as premium as it can possibly be. And I feel like it's, and also windows are expanding. I think a war on all fronts to get people to enjoy going to the movies again, not just strong arm them.
Well, Ben, I think that just about does it for this episode. Where can people find you if they want to reach out?
You can find me at benrock.com. Go there and check out my reel, which is going to need updating pretty soon, and a bunch of other stuff. Find me on social media. A few people reached out to me. Actually, I didn't really get into it, but I was reached out to by a Mexican filmmaker over the weekend who has a really cool film that not any fault of the film, I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it all the way through, and I want to give it like one full go. But reached out to me directly, and it's the kind of thing where if you have a film and you think that it would be worth us covering, don't be afraid, don't be shy, reach out to us.
Yeah, I'll echo that. We've had a few people reach out recently, and a couple people I've been chatting with, but don't take our silence as disinterest. We just get an awful lot of inquiries these days, and we're trying our best to figure out how to fit them in.
So possibly there will be an update about this film later on. The guy who sent it to me is the DP, so I don't want to ruin anything, but I'll watch this space. I'll probably bring it up again. Where can people find you, Ilya?
Oh, well, this week you can find me at Hot Rod Cameras. HotRodCameras.com is the website. If you need to buy equipment ever, there's such a better experience than going to a giant faceless corporation big box. You can talk to real human beings who understand what it is you're trying to do and will make sure that you actually get the stuff that's right for you. And you don't have to be that guy who just like orders something and then, if it doesn't work out, you send it back. It's so much better just to get the thing that's right for you in the first place. And at Hot Rod Cameras, that's what we specialize in doing.
I always tell people that.
Yeah. Ben, who do we have to thank? Who made this show possible?
As always, we've got to thank Alana Cody, our producer / editor. She's been setting up all these interviews. We have a bunch because it's kind of Emmy-ish season, so we're talking to a lot of people who are doing kick-ass television. I just did one last week, and there's I don't want to deep tease too hard, but we have one of our bucket list DPs coming on the show pretty soon. Somebody who, like, when we first talked about doing this podcast, we were like, maybe somebody like this would ever come on the show. We're getting that person. I could not be more excited.
I know, and I'm not going to say a word. I'm so excited about it.
I don't want to say anything because you never know. It might not happen. We haven't done it yet.
And the project is great too. So it's like it's a double win.
Loved every second of it. So thanks to a lot. We got to thank Kays Alatrakshy, who composed all the music that you hear on our show. Check out Kays' website, musicbykays.com. Check out Kays Labs if you have a synthesizer in need of repair. Kays has shifted into doing synthesizer repair after doing synthesizer repair on YouTube. I think both are still happening. So definitely new business venture for Kays. Get Kays to fix your synth. Ilya, you want to take us out?
Thanks for tuning in.
Woohoo! This has been Cinepod, the cinematography podcast presented by Hot Rod Cameras. Find your next camera, lens, or accessory at hotrodcameras.com. Watch and subscribe to our show on YouTube or listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow and interact with us on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn. But not X. Don't do that. Thanks for tuning in.